There's an article on Complex where Logic discusses hate in hip hop on his new stream that he does on Twitch, and I'm looking at it now. He's got a couch set up, nice mic. See a couple, 2 or 3 MPC machines in the back and some stuff. So I see that's his lab. And he's talking about hating hip hop and gives Drake his peas for embracing it. He said, "Would y'all argue that Drake is the most shit on artist in the world?" I would. This is what Logic is saying to the streamers. He said, "I would say Drake is without a doubt. It's not even a contest. People shit on Drake. Logic then praised Drake for leaning into the hate and used his tongue-in-cheek title for his upcoming album, Certified Lover Boy, as an example. He said, now this is the thing about Drake that I love is that he embraces it. So he's basically giving him peace for naming his album that, and everybody calling me soft and he's a pop star and this and that. But then he went on to say, people hate on Kendrick Lamar. How the fuck can you hate on Kendrick? But these people do it, and it's just so funny. He said, it's like you cannot be great without being hated on. And that's what stuck out to me on this article, because he mentioned himself as well. He's tying that hate into all of the greats. You know what I'm saying? Saying that in order for you to be great, you're going to have to run into some hate at some point before you can get to the level that these artists. How do you guys feel about that? Because Terry, I know you jumped in and you were talking about, I think you disagree with Drake being the most hated, but does he have a point in terms of Drake being the most hated, and you have to be hated that level before you can truly, get to the top in the scene? Like, you have to go through that. What do you think about it?
Drake is by far not the most hated artist out there right now. If anything, he's the most embraced and most protected. I mean, every time anybody has an issue with Drake, you already know he got Jay Prince in his back pocket. He can call up, have assists with whatever beef is going on. He keeps tracks on the radio, keeps tracks in the club. He's never came out as a tough guy. So the type of music that he makes is right in his own lane. I mean, him having an album called Lover Boy, whatever the hell the album's supposed to be called, is right in his lane. I mean, he's rapping and he does sing songy R&B type shit. So I don't think he's the most hated. Who is the most hated? Ja Rule, maybe? Ja Rule is the most hated rapper.
I don't think people hate Ja Rule. They're just indifferent to him. I mean, it's been such a long time since he's really been, I don't want to say relevant, because that's not kind, but like, when's the last time I was like, oh yeah, man? I mean, if you on a nostalgia kick, and there was pop minute, and people were playing them Ja Rule records, but I don't think people hate him. They're just indifferent to him. They'll be like, oh yeah, Ja Rule, whatever.
But you don't think that people hate on Drake? You don't think he's the most hated rapper, though, right?
Drake, look, I'll just be honest. There's not a night I've gone out when I'm out in the club. I've never, people I've been out where people have booed records when DJs played them. Yeah. Because that person was over with, or they've walked off the floor. That's never been the case with Drake. All right. Like I said, he's held you down for 10 summers at this point. So, when I don't know what Logic is thinking about. Like I said, Logic is in a kind of his own hip hop bubble. He's not really outside. I mean, none of us should be outside, but some of us are. But I'm just saying.
I see what you did there. I like that. I see what you did there. I like that. I don't know, man. Drake to me is just too big of a pop star to be the most hated. Like, that don't even sound right to me. Like, he's too dominant and too relevant for him to be the most hated, unless it's a lot of people.
Who's the most hated? I'm really trying to think of that. Like, who? 6ix9ine, is he the most hated?
I don't even think he count anymore, because he went back into his hole.
I think it's Drake.
You think it's Drake, Lone? Tell me why. Tell me why.
He's arguably the biggest hip hop artist, pop star. And with that comes so many eyes on him. And so even though he gets love from radio and the club, and the women love him and some guys love him, and, even with that all being said, he still is the butt of every single hip hop dude's jokes. I don't know how many times we even on this show have talked about Drake in a manner of just kind of demeaning him in a little bit. And it's not even necessarily like meant to hurt him. He's just so big that we know that it doesn't matter, that we can speak on him.
It definitely don't matter. It definitely don't matter. You're right.
I don't know if it's necessarily a hate. I think it's more just because its Logic is the same way. Like, I don't hate Logic. I just don't care about his music. You know, it's like a different level of. It's like very indifferent.
Is it more of a critique than a hate? Because I'll go out on a limb and say I've never hated on Drake on the show.
I'll admit that I may have hated on Drake, but I've never questioned his. I've always said that his ability to be a dope MC and his ability to write dope songs is undeniable. Like, I've never.
I mean, if calling him a pop star is hating,
that's what they tell me is hating by saying he's a pop star. I'm like, well, are y'all not paying attention to?
I guess what I'm saying is that it doesn't matter.
Okay.
Right? So, like, because we're talking about, okay, let's get who cares about the language, right? Whether it's hating or indifferent or all that stuff, we're treating Drake in a specific manner, right? We're treating him in a specific manner across the board, and it may not be hating in the sense of saying he's this or he's whack. It may just be that we're indifferent. It may be that there's always a clause when we talk about Drake, or you know, like he's always got an asterisk next to his name. He's by and far to me the most talked about artist of are they dope or not? And some people will say like,
I don't know. And the reason why I say I don't know is because, like, for example, last week I seen a bunch of people on Facebook posting their favorite artists and the best artists. And these are cats like between the ages of, let's say, 25 and 33 maybe. A lot of them was saying Drake was a favorite and Drake was the best.
Okay.
Oh, on both.
And there was a lot of argument. There was a lot of arguments going back and forth. Like, really, Drake is the best hip hop artist ever? You really feel like that? It's cats out here that really feel like that. So,
no, most definitely,
for sure,
most definitely,
for sure. So, I guess it also depends on the demographic. It also depends on the demographic, I guess, that we're talking about. Nicole made a really good point that I didn't even think about. Eminem might be the most hated. He actually might be.
There we go.
Oh, I didn't even think about that.
That's what I'm looking for. Yep, I've seen that.
That's a good one.
Yep. And that one has legs on it, because any people can bring up Eminem in any way, shape, or form, and they gonna say either he's best, and if somebody says he's the best, there's somebody that's gonna follow up say he's definitely not the best, and why he's not the best, and this, that, and the other. And I can confirm that we have had some interesting conversations about Eminem on the show. So yeah,
no doubt about it.
Definitely agree with that.
Yeah,
it's a good call, Nicole. I didn't think about M, because M get it all the time.
But I definitely do think that Drake is up there, though. I think he gets a lot of hate, and I don't think it's necessarily. It might not be proportional to the amount of that Eminem gets, but I think because Drake is so big, there's so many more people commenting on him. Yeah. So there's just going to be more of that. But
I got you.
That's my take. That's how I feel. Otherwise, I don't care.
That's how I feel. Okay, I'm not mad at that. No,
what you feel, Michael?
I think Eminem. Nicole's point to Eminem is right. I don't know how I missed that, but then when you
we ain't talking about that though. We talking about the what Logic said about Drake. That's what I'm.
Him being the most hated. No, I don't agree with that. I don't agree with that. I do agree with what Lone is saying in terms of him being up in that upper echelon of those people like Eminem and Drake. I can see that, and it's just because of the sample size. Like, there's so many people have opinions about Drake. Like, he's definitely up there, but I can't say that he's the most hated. I'd say Eminem is hated more than him if I had to pick somebody.
Yeah, I would too.
You know what I'm saying? He's up there, but I just can't I just can't see Drake being number one, man.
But you know what? Again, the reason why Eminem's the most hated is because he's one of the biggest artists ever. Like, if
and also, let's just think about let's just be real. On this show, we've done what some people would say is a fair amount of hating on Eminem.
Yeah.
Not because I think we have some personal animus against him, but because it's like, okay, if you're going to prop this guy up to be one of the GOATs, when he puts out his particular art, we are going to be critical of it. Just like we would be just like we're critical of Jay-Z, just like we're critical of Nas. And when he doesn't hit the mark, we are going to say that out loud. Yeah. But same way you know, when Nas put out the Lost tapes, and we were especially critical of the Lost tapes.
Ate his ass up.
You know, if you're going to put someone up as one of the GOATs, we're going to be critical when we don't get what we consider to be GOAT level material out of them. So I think we've been critical of Eminem, but it's not because we're particularly hating. We are just we can't act like when an Eminem record comes out that it didn't come out. We can't ignore it like we do some other artists. We have to go ahead and make particular statements and say, okay, well, this didn't work or this worked, you know, because if you're going to give this guy greatest of all time, and, you know, there are several people who want to give him that level of respect. Okay, when you put out something and it's just mediocre, we're going to have to go ahead and say it's mediocre. And that may come off as hate to some people. But quite honestly, maybe we're a little bit more critical because of the stature that you're given, but I don't think, you know, does he get more hate? Yes, because honestly, Eminem has put out records that I just think are okay or not even close to being okay. But at the same time, I've been especially critical of Lil Wayne. I think his last 2 or 3 records have been terrible. And I'm not going to apologize for that. If you're going to call this guy the greatest rapper alive, or this is your idol, and the last 3 or 4, maybe since the Carter 5, I've been completely bored by Lil Wayne's albums, and I think they've been half-assed. And that's not hate. I think there's a flip side to that, though. Criticizing what I think is inferior work.
There's a flip side to that too, though, because I have a cousin. Shout out to my cousin James, who's I always talk about, who's a patron. He'll tell you Eminem is the GOAT. He'll tell you he's his favorite rapper. Like, there's people out there, to Jay Moore's point, that says that, but also, you know, we just talked about, I think it was a few episodes ago, Terry, you and I talked about a little bit more than the other 2 guys. We had heard it, but I was telling y'all that Eminem actually had some heat on his last bonus release. If you remember me saying that, like,
he did have heat on that. Have heat.
I listened to it and I'm like, okay, he got a handful of joints on here that I would run back.
The problem with Eminem, though, and this is gonna be taken as hating. Somehow we got into a whole Eminem conversation because we didn't figure out who the most hated artist is.
The most hated is,
artist ever. That's why.
He makes great. He's lyrical as fuck and can write bars out of this world, but it doesn't have staying power, and it also doesn't get played in the club like that. The shit with Logic, the Logic type of hate is not the same type of hate that he's trying to put himself in the ring with.
Yeah, people
ain't hating Logic in the same realm as a Drake or an Eminem or those.
He's not even close to them.
Nah, he's not even close to type of hate that Logic garners is more so from. I know me personally, I think he bites. He can rap his ass out, but he bites. He's not always authentically himself, in my personal opinion. And people can take that any way they want.
He gets cultural hate too, though.
Well, that's because he does it to himself. Mm-hmm. A lot of that shit he does to himself, you know, being the mixed kid that looks white.
Yeah,
he definitely used that to his advantage coming out, because I never knew Logic was mixed until later. I thought he was just
me neither.
He was white, you know what I'm saying? So he used that to his advantage. When he couldn't use that anymore, he went ahead and said he was mixed, and you know what I'm saying, he kept on playing that same card over and over and over and over. I don't know. It got kind of corny to me, and not an Eminem type of corny.
I think another way to potentially approach this would be the specific like type of hate that artists are getting. Like, are artists getting hate from like other artists and critics, or is the hate coming from fans, or like just like the casual fan? Because there's a whole nother, you know. But
yeah, that's a whole nother bag you can go into right there.
If you've enjoyed this segment of the New Old Heads podcast, make sure to join our live show every Tuesday from 9 to 11 p.m. Eastern on twitch.tv/newoldheads. And we invite you to join our hip hop community on Discord. Access it by going to newoldheads.com/community for talks on hip hop, sports, music, news, and everything else.